Hello and welcome to Right from the Kickoff. I'm your host William Bayliss, and you can actually see us today. So, how you doing, Joe?
It's the first time for everything. We kind of put this off because we know how ugly we both are. So,
Mm.
first time for
Yeah,
everything.
I think you're referencing me more than you, to be honest, mate.
That's it, yeah. Well, you're not the one with the atrocious beard.
Yeah, I'm on one with the atrocious ears, though, so you know.
There you go.
So, let's get started, shall we? So, let's start with Steve Cooper, your new manager, our old manager. What do you think of it?
Do you know what? I've had a couple of days to process the information. I mean, obviously, we've got a group chat with yourself and a couple of other Forest lads who obviously are both our friends. And obviously, they were sort of relaying the information as it was going on. And I was not happy to start off with. And I'll give you the reason why. It's because obviously Carlos Corberán and Graham Potter had been linked to the job. Now, when managers of that ilk, for me, not necessarily Corberán, but more Potter, when they get mentioned, especially with the job that Potter did at Brighton, you're kind of thinking, oh, that would be great. But now I've had a couple of days to think about it. I actually think, and especially since Cooper's first interviews come out, it could be a match made in heaven. It could be.
I did tell you, it's Cooper does get people to rally behind him a lot faster than
Yeah,
you realise.
yeah, and you can definitely see that. I really basically everything that he said, and I think the key thing is, Will, really, and you'll understand this as a football fan, as any football fan watching this will understand, is you want somebody to beat your club. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's clear he wanted the job. Potter, we could have got Potter, I think, if we'd have waited another week or two, but I don't think the board could have sort of sacrifice that in terms of the signings we've got lined up and all that. So I think no, Cooper's good for me. The Forest connection, going to be honest, I think it's something that Cooper's got to deal with going forward. I mean, from your side of things, what should we expect as Leicester fans from Cooper? Because obviously he was so great for you in the Championship, managed to keep you up, and then things did go south. So from your point of view, what should we expect?
Yeah, and because I know we've spoken about this a fair bit away from the camera, so I'll just repeat what I said before because my opinion hasn't changed. Cooper will bring everything you didn't have in the season you got relegated. What I mean by that is that we both agree the season Leicester got relegated from the Premier League, you got too overconfident. You think, oh, like a bit too cocky, and or the fans had that level of expectation, and you can see the players weren't playing for each other, they weren't playing for the manager, and Cooper will bring that stability away behind the scenes, and he'll really galvanize and create a really good culture like he did at Forest. He'll hopefully, I'm hopeful for you because I don't really have a problem with Leicester personally, and I really like Steve Cooper, and when Forest do play Leicester this season, you'll be surprised about how many Forest fans will be behind Steve Cooper and clap him in. And that just shows the level of respect that most Forest fans have, because there's always a few exceptions, as you know, in football, Joe. How much we care about him and how much we appreciate what he's done. And I think he'll be a really good asset for you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, and I've always preferenced this on the show, I think with the Forest and Leicester connection, the only reason it means more to me as a Leicester fan is because I'm from Nottingham. Obviously, my family's from Leicester. So that's where me supporting Leicester comes from before anybody in the comments jumps on my back. Obviously I have a lot of respect for Nottingham Forest, but because I went to a school in Nottingham, because I've worked in Nottingham, the banter is always there. I'm around Nottingham fans. It's the same.
Yeah.
If I lived in Coventry, I would probably hate Coventry more than I do Forest. And I don't hate Forest, by the way. Just as a fact about myself as well, my old man, so my dad, is actually a Forest fan as well. So there is that rivalry there. my granddad was a massive Leicester fan. Again, he pushed harder for me to be a Leicester fan, just to give everybody a bit of context into why I support Leicester City.
Yeah. So, are you hopeful for Leicester this season? Obviously, you got your points deduction, but I think you should keep him if you get relegated because he'll bring you back up.
Yeah. I think that's the point I made. You know, I send you kind of stuff that I post on Leicester fan forums and stuff like that, and I said something the other day with the fact that Cooper wants to be here. And a massive important fact for me is I don't think if we do get relegated and we show fight and we have a good season in terms of we nearly got there but quite didn't, even with the points deduction. I think for me, Cooper's not the type of man that I feel would up and leave. He'd have to be pushed. And you've got to look at our financial situation as to why Cooper's been hired. He's the cheaper option. There's no lie about that. You know, he was out of work. There was no compensation needed there. And you look at managers like Corberan, for example, and Potter, two different ways. But, you know, Potter's wages, especially because he's on gardening leave from Chelsea, essentially, and getting paid from them, you know, he'll want a similar compensation package from Leicester, which is something that we can't afford. And I think that's what broke down the talks between us and Potter.
Yeah, it was interesting because on the day where it came out that Cooper was favourite, Fabrizio also put a thing about Potter, and it was very interesting to see where the sources come from and where, like, I don't know if the PR team of Potter tried to get that out to try and push for talks between them. But it's nice to see Fabrizio get something wrong, if I'm being honest.
But I'm not surprised, and what I mean by that is Fabrizio is very, very good when it comes to the bigger clubs. You know, in terms of he's got the sources. You look at teams like Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, you know, Chelsea, those types of teams. He's very good. He will be nearly 100% right all the time. As soon as you dip into somebody like little old Leicester, where he doesn't necessarily have the sources available to him, like he does do at Man United, like he does do, you know, he'll have loads of sources available to him from those clubs. Whereas Leicester,
sorry, Joe, it's interesting you say that because he's actually good friends with the Forest owner's son who works at the club as well. So they have good connections. So it just depends on his connection. So he probably doesn't have as good connections at Leicester.
Yeah.
Little old Leicester on big old Forest, you know, that's what you mean.
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do, mate. Absolute rubbish. Anyway, just moving it on slightly.
That's a nice segue from rubbish to rubbish.
Yeah, we've talked about Cooper now, and this podcast might be a little bit longer than usual because I think there's quite a lot to delve into with obviously the England. Now, we both. I personally wasn't gutted about the draw against Denmark. What I was really gutted about was the performance. I mean, I'll let you take it.
Yeah.
Where did it go wrong? Is my question, because
that's an interesting one because there's a lot of things what went wrong in that game. The players looked tired, they looked lethargic, they looked like they didn't know what system they were playing, they didn't know what positions they should be in, they didn't know about how Harry Kane said after the game, he said they don't know how to press. Now, Joe, that's concerning.
Yeah.
And also what's concerning is that Southgate after the game came out and said, oh, we haven't had someone to replace Calvin Phillips. Bearing in mind 2 years ago in Qatar, he didn't even play one game, Calvin Phillips.
I know. That for me, just kind of going on to that, I was really baffled by that comment. It really kind of made me think that Southgate hasn't got a clue of what the actual problems are. I mean, if you look at Calvin Phillips as well as a whole, there's no way he should be anywhere near this team with obviously his recent performances. Obviously, Man City, even his loan spell at West Ham was diabolical. So to bring up a player like that, and then you've got the likes of Kobbie Mainoo Adam Wharton sitting on the bench going, well, we fit the
We
profile.
can do that job.
Yeah, we can do that job. And, you know, Kobbie Mainoo has obviously been grabbing a lot of headlines at Man United and has had a terrific season. And immediately you're getting told that for a player who's been out injured, who's not had a great loan spell at West Ham, who cannot get a sniff at Man City, hasn't played a lot of football, is possibly out of fitness, and you're getting told that, oh, you know what, I really should have brought that guy instead of you. As a youngster, that's not going to be good for your confidence, is it? For either Wharton or Mainoo.
Speaking of you, and like, what's surprising the most was that when the team sheet came out, it was exactly the same T sheet as the previous week, and sorry, the previous game. And I was thinking, it was like, we had all those issues in the second half. There better be nowhere near as many issues, otherwise we're in big trouble. And the whole game, as soon as we conceded, as soon as we scored, yet again, Joe, we dropped 15 feet back, and they just didn't know what to do. They weren't pressing as a team. They don't look like a team.
Yeah, they really don't. And I think what is, for me, what is concerning is, you know, Kyle Walker, again, another player. You talked about Harry Kane, but Kyle Walker came out after the game and it's like, oh, the manager's not telling us to do that. And I'm like, well, why do that then? There's a lot of players in that team that don't do it for their clubs. Do you know what I mean? They don't do it for their clubs in terms of the retreating aspect. It's only when they play for England. And I was sat with my girlfriend's dad actually watching the game, and he was saying that, you know, the pace of the Premier League, you know, there's just no pace there. You know, don't get me wrong, the pitch was awful, but there was just no quickness about our play, our tempo. Like you said, there was no build up, there was no pressing. It was quite honestly an abysmal performance from when we scored. And it's a pattern, isn't it? It's a pattern with Southgate.
Yeah, I'm just surprised we didn't lose that game, to be honest. My friend Christian, I was telling, he was at the game. He's Danish. He's a Denmark fan, obviously, and yeah, he was just saying that England were terrible, basically.
I
It
mean,
was just, is anyone you think had the head held up high after the game?
yeah, Mark Gahey. I thought
Yeah,
he had a good performance. Honestly, you know, that's the one decision for me that actually we're not missing Harry Maguire, because I don't think Harry Maguire could have put in any better performances than Gahey has done over the
yeah.
last.
I think they both have different profiles, don't they? I
Yeah,
think Harry Maguire will have the area presence, and he's good at corners, but Gahey is a lot more. You know what I mean by this? Is it's a lot more athletic.
yeah, and can get back quicker.
Yeah,
And
like his mistake, he tracked back and like timed that tackle perfectly.
he's more physical. Don't get me wrong; he's made a couple of mistakes, but he's atoned for his errors.
Yeah, and Harry Maguire wouldn't have had that pace to get back.
And I think to be honest, he's the only player for me that really stood out. You know, I mean, I was singing in the last podcast. If you want to go and check it out on YouTube, you can do. In the last podcast we had, you know, I was singing Bellingham's praises. I thought he ghosted for the entire
He was
game.
non-existent.
He was non-existent. Foden, he made. Do you know what? Right, and I've got to say this.
He had a better game.
Yeah, he had a better game. And for me, I kind of thought, excuse my French, but I kind of thought that he sort of was just going, I know what I'm being told to do, but F this, because he hit the post a couple of times. He had a couple of marauding runs. And those moments, I could kind of see in his eyes, he was just like, oh, I'm just going to go and try and win this myself. And then lo and behold, after he hit the post and made a couple of marauding runs, Southgate took him off. Just on the player setup, what's your opinion on Trent and the sort of midfield experiment as it's being put
Yeah,
out?
he literally said,
Getting,
and it clearly didn't work, though, did it? Like he just wasn't. He just didn't bring that stability. He didn't help out Rice as much as he should have done, and Rice struggled because of that. I think he was left on his own a lot of the time. He sat back. Rice didn't have a very good game, because there was no outlet for him to pass to.
oh, there was no outlet at all, was there?
The whole game.
I did find it quite funny that the 2 times that Trent passed the ball over the top and looked like they were breaking it down, Southgate then took him off after that. I did find that quite funny.
Yeah. And Harry Kane didn't have a very game. He doesn't look fit. He wants to help out by coming back, but he was out of position so many times during that game, like because he was frustrated, but it wasn't helping the team. He wasn't offering anything when he sat back because there was no outlet in front.
No. I just,
So
yeah.
I was fuming after the game. Like Joe, I don't because we were gonna have a quick chat and record it, and then I was like, I don't think I could. Like, I'm too annoyed right now, which might have made a good episode, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I
but,
was definitely less
but
annoyed than you were. I was definitely
yeah,
less.
but we didn't lose. I don't know
No,
how, but we didn't lose.
no, and I said in the podcast previous that we'd get a draw. I did say 2-2. Obviously, it
Did
finished
say
1.
that.
But I think where me and you are frustrated, it's not the result at this stage. Like, I know it's the competition; it's about getting results. The draw is great that we got that, to be honest, because we're pretty much all but through. But I think that the performance, like we've sort of mentioned, it's just very concerning, isn't it? And that brings me on to my next question: is where do we go from here? Really,
Like, do you think we'll see a lot of changes in the next game, Joe? I think we will. I think we should.
I think we should.
Have a look who hasn't had a sniff yet. Cole Palmer, Gordon. They would have changed the game. I don't know why they didn't come on.
No, Kobe Mainu as well. Wharton as well. Would like to have seen him.
And when Watkins came on, he made those runs. We looked so much better going forward, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and it also pushed Denmark's line slightly back.
Exactly.
Because I had the pace. I don't, just going back to Harry Kane, I don't think he's fit. I think, just to sort of talk about a point you made, I think he's coming off an injury. I know he scored, but he didn't do anything else. If he hadn't have scored, we'd have been talking about an all-time stinker. And it really was, to be honest. But yeah, Watkins for me, running behind, sort of stretched the defence a bit.
Turned the defence.
Yeah.
Defenders hate people running at them, and he did that.
Yeah, it's just a bit depressing. But I think, like you say, we should see some changes. Who would you bring in, Will? If you were to make the changes yourself, if you were Southgate, what would you do?
I would bring in Wharton or Mainu for Trent. That's the first what I would do. I like Gallagher, but every time I see him, he looks like he's a red card waiting to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I like the passion he gives, though, to be fair. But yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying.
It's a shame about Shaw because Trippier has been struggling. I would keep the back line though, just because Shaw isn't fit.
Let's talk about that for a second. Shaw, if he's not played for half the season for United, why bring him? You've got the players from Crystal Palace like Tyreek Mitchell, who yes aren't as fought out at this level, but I mean, we've got other options out there for different clubs that we could have brought, because we are desperately in need of a left back and we haven't got one. Trippier is not a left back, and that's why Foden making runs inside to that number 10 position, all that sort of stuff. He's not getting the ball because Trippier doesn't have a right foot or a left foot on that side. Do you know what I mean?
Would you suggest potentially playing three at the back, play Kyle Walker as a right centre back, which he does for Man City very often, and have Stones and Gahey at that centre back trio with wingers either side?
Yeah, I mean, we need to do something. I would be up for that change. I agree with you in terms of we need a change. I personally don't know what it is, because if we get to, even if we win, right, and we see a similar performance like we have done against Serbia and Denmark, right? Even if we win 1-0 and we as soon as we go 1-0 up and then we do what we did against Serbia, we do what we did against Denmark, and we retreat like we did, there needs to be changes. There needs to be something different. I think the reason I wasn't so angry, and I'm actually more angry about it now I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
The reason I wasn't so angry on the night is because it's kind of what I expected. You look even back to obviously the Euro final of 3 years ago, and you see what we did against Italy. Do you know what I mean? It's a similar sort of pattern, and
Yeah, and do you think that's on Southgate?
oh yeah, 100%, 100%. You can't sit there and tell me stupid stuff like we don't know how to press when you do that for your clubs on a daily basis. These are the top level England players. Do you know what I
He doesn't
mean?
need to be told what to do.
Yeah,
Like,
and I categorically refuse to believe players coming out. And let's be honest, players like Southgate, it's obvious, right, that they do.
which
So
is credit to Southgate, to be fair, but he needs to tell them.
yeah. I mean, Southgate's. Let's be honest about it, and I want your opinion on this as well. But he's obviously coming at a time, sort of 8 years ago, where it was quite tumultuous in terms of obviously everything that happened with Allardyce, what had happened with Roy Hodgson previously going out to Iceland at the Euros. So he's done really well. He obviously gets the team going in the sense of like, have pride in what you're doing, different setups and making sure that they feel valued. He's obviously very, very good at that. The problem is when we get to these competitions against the bigger teams, the better teams, tactically he gets found out. And
Yeah.
and I had this conversation with, and interesting to hear your take on this. I had this conversation with my girlfriend's dad the other night. If we had Pep or Klopp at the helm, are you honestly telling me that we wouldn't be making deep runs and possibly winning these things?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying we'd ever get those managers, but do you see what I mean? He's tactically inept, and it's obvious.
Yeah, you kind of, when a New England manager comes in, they're always very the similar profile of very reserved and playing football in a certain way. And don't get me wrong, Gareth Southgate has revolutionized England in terms of getting to finals, getting to semi-finals. He has made these deep runs, but there's always been question marks, and you have to wonder why these question marks keep arising. Don't you,
Yeah,
Joe?
for sure. I think that there's a lot of fans out there that aren't enamored with the style of play. Um, and I think it's just showing itself. I think what we're witnessing here is kind of the end of shelf life. He's Southgate's definitely put on the shelf for reduced products,
Yeah.
and he's now ready to be bought or thrown in the bin. And I don't mean that horribly. I'm just sort of using it as an analogy to say, look, we need to now move on to somebody different. Whether that,
Yeah, because
oh,
it's interesting you said that because Steve Cooper was linked with England prior to it. Because
yeah,
obviously it's like under 21 links and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see.
Potter was heavily linked, and there's been a lot of talk amongst the Leicester fan base that that's probably what he's waiting for.
Yeah, because we both agree. I know we've said this on a previous podcast, and we've said this previously that we think this, even if Southgate by some miracle wins the Euros, this will be his last tournament.
Yeah, I think for him, I think he knows he's ready to go. And also you look at the paper talk. There's already talk, a lot of things floating around about Southgate having a club job.
I know he was linked with Man United, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and I know Ineos at United were quite actually interested in getting him in. I know there was some backlash with the United fans for that. But
Mark Goldbridge.
yeah, Mark Goldbridge. I mean, I personally quite like Mark Goldbridge. I don't know about you. I think he's quite funny. You know, I like his content, so you know, I've got no issue with him. But I know that it's 50-50 with a lot of the United fan base. I think it's more he's quite popular with the fans outside of Manchester. He's not so popular with the fans inside Manchester, which is interesting. But moving on swiftly, I do feel like it's going to be interesting to see who does take that England job. But I do think it is Southgate's last tournament.
Yeah, I agree. We agree on it, Joe. Who would have thought?
I know.
So yeah, let's move on to some. Oh, sorry, Joe.
I was going to say, how far do you think we will get in this tournament? Just moving it on.
It depends on if we win the group or not. I would say if we win the group, quarterfinal. If we come second, round of 16.
Yeah, but you're still not very hopeful either way.
No, if we win the next game 5-0, I will be. But I very much doubt we will.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that. I am with you on that. But yeah, go on, carry on with what you were saying.
So yeah, so we spoke about England now. So if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments down below, wouldn't we, Joe? So let's move on. What other teams or countries have impressed you so far?
I actually think, I mean, even with last night's loss, I mentioned them before. Romania for me have done very well. You know, you got to look at
that's a very interesting group.
Yeah, they're down there as kind of minnows, and they've done very well. And even against Belgium last night, if you watched the game, and I did, they had chances. I think the difference between Belgium and Romania was definitely just the quality up front. Actually, chances created, Romania could have easily have scored two themselves, and should have done really. But yeah, so they've impressed me as kind of an outside call. I think France have actually been quite underwhelming. I know that's not the question, but France.
Yeah, they got very lucky, didn't they?
Yeah.
Let's talk about my goal then. The offside goal. What did you think of it? Do you think it should have been given?
It wasn't off. It wasn't offside. Yeah, it should have been given. I think if you actually watch it back, and from the first angle, you're kind of like, well, yeah, I can see why that's given offside. But then you look at it from behind the goal, and the goalkeeper, his foot position's not set properly. He's not going to be able to dive for it. The player doesn't impede or stop the goalkeeper from getting to that ball, and that's
playing devil's advocate on that, because I understand why it was disallowed, because it was given disallowed on the pitch. There wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. Because
disallowed. Anthony Taylor's an absolute bell sniff. He's an atrocious referee. I know he's an atrocious referee and should not be at the Euros.
It's funny though, because like refereeing standards in the Euros have been really, really good. And the one time there's a controversial moment, guess who's a referee? An English referee, Joe.
And it's Anthony Taylor.
After this season as well.
Yeah, I just honestly I did laugh when there was controversy over it. But yeah, for me it was a goal, and France got very lucky. But yeah, they've not been great. Obviously, Mbappe didn't really play much part because he's broken his nose in the first game. So yeah, they don't look great for me. And I think a lot of their fans will be saying the same sort of things as we are saying. Over there, so we'll just have to wait on that. Who do I think is going to go and win the tour? I think it's Germany's. I do. I'm really impressed with Germany making light work of their group, and I just think they'll get better and better as the tournament goes on. What about yourself?
I think Germany have the home advantage is always going to be huge for these international tournaments, but I think Spain have looked quite good as well. I know they scraped through against Italy, but they still beat Italy. Yeah, I think Spain or Italy for me. Portugal, they had a good game against Turkey, but I don't know. Germany or Spain to me.
Germany or Spain. I think Portugal are worth a mention, but I think looking at them, I don't think they've got enough for me. But these quotes might come out to bite us on the arse. So you
never know.
But yeah, I'm not confident as an England fan. We always sort of rave sort of at this time of oh, it's coming home and all that. There's not been a lot of that this year because we've been
There's not much optimism around because the performances on the pitch haven't warranted that. If we won both games 5-0, we'd be like, it's coming home. But even in the game we won, the first game, we weren't that impressed.
Yeah, just on that for me, we're going to go through. Are we going to go through some player ratings for the? I want to do some player ratings for that performance. I know you're not enamoured with it, but if you want to get the team sheet up,
Yeah,
as a last bit, we do some player ratings because I'd be interested to see what you've got to say on that, Will.
Yeah, so let's start with Jordan Pickford.
Jordan Pickford, for me, I'd give him a 6. I don't think he particularly did much wrong. I don't think he could have done much for the goal.
No, it was a great finish.
Yeah. I don't think he's got anything for me that I would say was anything wrong. What about yourself, Will?
I give him 6.5. Like, he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
Trippier.
4. I just don't think he offered a lot. I don't think that's his natural position. And if we had another option, I would bring them in straight away next game. But we don't have another option, so that one's a bit of a death.
I agree on that one. I give him a 4. Gahey,
I'd give him an 8. I thought, and he's getting the highest rating of the lot. I think he's been brilliant. He's been
probably by some way.
I think he's been a breath of fresh air in terms of the 2 performances he's put in. Yes, he's made a couple of mistakes, like we've pointed out, but I think his mistakes have never led to a goal. And when we've needed him at the back, he's been our strongest defender, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. On to the other centre back, John Stones.
John Stones, I don't particularly think he had a terrible game, actually. I don't think the back line were terrible because,
It's just everyone else in front of them.
Yeah. So I'm going to give John Stones a 5 or a 6. I'll give him a 5.5. I don't think he had a terrible performance. I don't think he had he wasn't doing what he usually does for Man City, but he's not playing for Man City. He's playing for England. So yeah, it was 5.5 for me.
Yeah, Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker, difficult because he was the reason we got that, really, with that kind of nicking it off Christensen at the other end. For that reason, I would give him a 5.5. I think the rest of his performance wasn't great, but it bumps it up a bit because he was the reason, really, we got that first goal. Well, we got the only goal we got. So 5.5.
Declan Rice. Would you say it's his worst game he's had for England?
Yeah, I would say it's his worst game all season. In a lot, like worst. I watched a lot of Arsenal this year, and worst game we've had. So 3.5, 4, 3.5.
Yeah, I'll give him a 4. Not great. Trent, obviously, he's out of position, so it's not really his fault. But you have to, the performance wise.
Trent, here's my thing with Trent, right? I'm a big supporter of Trent. You'll see on my socials, I've supported him in the past. I love Trent. He's my favourite player, actually, from another club. So mine might be a little bit biased, but I do feel like if you haven't got runners in front of you, Trent's almost ineffective, and he didn't have the runners. I'm still going to go for a 4.5/5. I don't think he had a great game, and I also don't think that that's his natural position, and it's clear from those 2 games now that we've had that it's not.
Yeah. Foden.
Foden, I'm going to actually give a 5-2. The reason for that is because I do think that he actually did try to make a couple of runs. Obviously, hit the post, and there was a run before that where he actually did get past their defensive line and actually try and make something happen. So I do think it was a better performance from him than his last game, and he was trying to make something happen. But again, when you're playing him off the left and not the centre, you're not going to see the best of him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Jude.
4.
Yeah, non-existent.
I love Jude. Big fan of him. I was singing his praises, but honestly can't really remember anything he did or saw him do. So yeah, 4.
Saka.
Again, he kind of ghosted, didn't he? There wasn't really a lot he did.
He had a few good runs, but he
Yeah,
wasn't
I'll
as
give him a
effective.
4.5. 4.5. Could make a couple of runs from deep.
Yeah. Kane. It's an interesting because he had one of his first games, but he scored.
Out that he scored a goal for this because it doesn't deserve to be mentioned. He scored a goal. It was a tap in. It was created by Kyle Walker, and we actually got lucky that it ricocheted to him. So I'm going to take it out because I think it needs to be talked about his overall performance. 3. I really wasn't happy. You know, that hold-up play that we were talking about that he had against Serbia, that was non-existent. There was no pressing from the front, no pace, no speed, nothing. It was an awful performance. And yes, he got the goal, but you'd expect him to finish that. So
yeah, he didn't seem like he was leading the team. He's captain, and it didn't seem like he was the leader. I know there's different kinds of captains, but he didn't give that in that game.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So Gallagher.
5. Can't really remember him doing much, but I can't really remember him doing much wrong. I know he got a yellow. We're talking about him getting a red card and stuff. So, you know, he did get a yellow. He shows a bit, but yeah, no. 5.
Jared Bowen. I didn't think
I thought he was very poor when he came on. I'd give him a 4.5, 4. I really did think he was quite poor.
Yeah. Heze.
He didn't really do much. Again, when he came on, you know,
I think he looked a bit isolated.
I can't really remember them doing much when they came on, and if that's the way you're thinking, I'd go 4, 5. Didn't do much wrong, but didn't do much to affect the game.
And finally, Ollie Watkins, arguably the most effective. So
6.5.
I said, yeah, I thought he played quite well. He made that run, and he was unlucky with the angle. But yeah, if he had scored that, it would have been 7-8. But yeah, that was the England team. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the England team and their rating. So let us know down below, and we'd love to hear it. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, me and Will are both working, so the next podcast might be a little bit late out, but we'd obviously love to hear your thoughts on everything that we've discussed. And also, just if you've got any different opinions, you know, leave them in the comments, and we can bring them up in the next show. We're going to look. We're going to look to do more sort of visual podcasts now. It's more effective. But yeah, we'd love to know what you guys thought. And where do you think England need to go from here? Because we're not going to win this tournament, so it's who do you want us to bring in as manager, I think, and how do you want us to set up going forward?
What systems do you want? That's very, very big. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and hit the like button on this video.
Yes, please do, guys. All right, cheers.
Cheers. Till next time. And good luck to Scotland tonight. Come on, Scotland.